Hello and welcome. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. My name's Katie Stickley. I'm from Did Teach. I spent 19 years as a teacher, and now I spend my days helping teachers find alternative careers if they want to work in the education system in a slightly different way, using all the skills that they've built up from the classroom. It was back in the summer on a beautiful day when I met Ildiko. I got invited to a corporate wellbeing event, and Ildiko was one of the guest speakers. And honestly, she blew my mind. It was amazing listening to her speak and the attention to detail that she had, and I think really the fact that you had researched everything, Ildiko, and that you knew what you were talking about. You weren't just giving us a sort of warm hug. You actually gave us sort of actionable things. And I'm absolutely delighted that you have decided to run one for our teachers this evening, because I think it's so worthwhile, especially this time of year. Things are getting quite stressful. End of term is crazy, as I remember. But there are ways that we can cope, and there are ways that we can help ourselves and help people who we live with and colleagues as well. So, Ildiko, please introduce yourself and tell us a bit about you and your background.
Thank you very much, Katie, and I'm delighted to be here. I'm very honoured to have this opportunity to be able to speak to you and your audience. Yes, you're right. It was a wonderful day at Smart Base. It wasn't well attended, but the right person was there, and that was you. And it's just wonderful how it's opened up the opportunity to be able to help those people who I'm qualified to talk to, give advice to, and also to help on a deeper level with the psychology, the therapy side of what I do. But I'll talk about that later. Yes, I am known as the business burnout buster. The reason I'm known as that is because I work with prevention of burnout, workplace burnout. I work with retention of staff within workplaces and organizations, and I also work to help those who have already sadly burnt out and are not functioning and need to get back on track. So that is how I'm actually known. I have been in private practice for 20 years now, working with initially business owners around the globe to help them with things like high anxiety states, trauma situations, and also getting rid of dead-end thinking and turning around sabotaging behavior. So this is my arena, my space, and I think it works really, really well with burnout now. And burnout is the real issue now. There's 2.5 million people at least out long-term sick with mental health issues, physical issues coming from burnout, because it's a total wipeout. That's where I place myself since the pandemic, and I'm utterly passionate in helping as many people as possible with this horrible situation.
Wonderful. I'll put your slides up now and you can talk us through your presentation. Thank you, Ildiko.
Thank you very much. So my presentation is called Beating Burnout in Education because, as Katie said, I have spent time researching the education sector, and I have gathered the information about how to start helping you out there to cope better, whether you are actually still in an education job or role, or whether you have actually decided that you're leaving that role because it's got too much. This presentation, really, this evening's webinar is for you in either case. So I am a qualified mental health first aider. I became qualified a few months ago because I believe that it's important to understand within organizations how health and safety is being conducted. I am an independent mental health first aider, but I can be called upon, certainly in extreme situations now, because I have the qualification, I have the understanding of how that actually works. I'm also trained by Blue EQ, which is a global leadership organization, and we work to promote psychological safety and emotional intelligence within, again, organizations and companies. So I've got various qualifications. I'm the founder of my own rapid emotional release system, which is the life retuning method, which is actually trademarked. So today I'm going to be talking about recognizing the risks of burnout, because burnout will sneak up on you. You're coping, and then one day you wake up and you're not coping anymore. And this is the real danger with burnout. So I'm going to be talking about recognizing the risks this evening, and how to start reclaiming your resilience. Can you move on to the next? Oh no, it's not you, it's me, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Don't worry, we're getting the technology sorted. It's getting in my head. Okay, so let's start with the real deal. Okay, the Teacher Wellbeing Index 2022, and the very concerning quote: another year of data on an exhausted workforce. This cannot go on. We have a duty of care to future generations of children and young people to retain passionate, talented teachers and leaders. And instead, stress and overwork have been normalized in the education sector. This will affect the lives and education of thousands of children, and those in the least resourced areas will suffer most. But I will add to that, it will also affect the lives of you, the teachers. So this is really key important. So this is the executive officer at Education Support, who actually conduct the Teacher Wellbeing Index. So let's start with the basics. Stress. Now, stress is a very overused word. Your muscles can be stressed if you do a workout. It's kind of a dumbed down word, but I want to get real with it because I'm a psychologist, and stress is it really is a killer if we allow it to build up. So there are two types of stress. The first type of stress is functional. Okay, functional stress is our limbic and natural basic reaction to threats in our environment. That's what stress is really for. And it is the fight, flight, freeze response, which I'm sure many of you know about. So let's just go through what that is. Your heart starts beating faster, your pupils dilate, adrenaline rushes to your muscles, and you scream to warn others, and you breathe faster. Why do you do that? Because you are either going to fight or you're going to flee. And you need the oxygen in your muscles, which is provided by the release of the powerful stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, and aldosterone, into your bloodstream. And then you are ready to face the enemy or the threat. That is how we have been for right from prehistoric times. And we still have that limbic, basic reactive system within ourselves, no matter how civilized we have become and how much we've developed our technology and all of that. We still have that basic response. Now, I do warn you, some of you might be scared by this next image, but it's to give you that feeling. Okay, so this is what we faced. These kind of beasts, the prehistoric, some of the prehistoric beasts weren't around when humans were in their prototype, but actually, you know, there were a lot of these kind of very scary, very dangerous creatures. So this is the saber-toothed tiger. And what does it denote? Danger. Fight, flight, freeze. So this is functional stress, and there's nothing wrong with it. It is our basic response to danger. It's natural. You get you have the stress hormones flood into your system. You deal with the situation. Boom, that's it. It gets excreted out of your system, out of your muscles, and you're fine. What's the other type of stress? Chronic stress. This is not good stress. This is long-term and unresolved. This is where you are worrying constantly over and over about something you can't actually necessarily do something about. It's when you listen to the news and you can't do anything about it, and you get worked up and you get upset. And the stress response is exactly the same as the functional stress. And that's the damaging part, because you can't clear it out of your system because you keep firing and firing and firing these powerful hormones into your system, and your body starts becoming depleted. If you are waking up, for instance, at 3 a.m., I'll talk about that more in a minute. that's already an indicator that cortisone is preparing you for the level of high stress that your mind and your body expect the next day. So we're talking about this. We're talking about not getting a break from that high level stress and worry and anxiety. And this is continuous. It's a continuous feeling of lack of safety. And that is what our Western world is experiencing now more and more. And that is where burnout comes from, because we don't have the tools at the moment to deal with this. So the conclusions of the Teacher Wellbeing Index, again, are not encouraging. An increasingly burnt out workforce that is unable to deliver the quality of education that our children and young people deserve. Intensification of the existing retention and recruitment crisis, and decreasing health outcomes for our education workforce at great cost to the NHS at a time when it is stretched to breaking point. So this is what we want to prevent, you getting to that point. So I would like you, first of all, if you'd like to involve yourself in this, this is actually interactive. It's a self-assessment for burnout. So I'm going to go through 10 statements. And what I'd love you to do, if you're okay putting it in the chat, please do. If you're not, just keep it to yourself. That's fine too. One is, it always happens. 10 is never. So what I'm going to do with you at the end is I'm going to give you the grading. So just add up your score as you go along. And then later on, I will reveal what that actually means for you. So the first statement is, I feel overwhelmed due to a high workload and unrealistic expectations. So this is an actual accredited self-assessment for burnout from Blue EQ. And it is used within companies, mainly in the States, actually. We're not really geared up for this as yet in the UK, but it's a very, very a good way of assessing where you are at. So just put down between 1 and 10 where you place yourself. The next statement is, I struggle to maintain a balance between my work and personal life. So just grade yourself for that. The next one, I feel that there is insufficient support provided to me by my organization. Again, just grade yourself, take a moment. I find it challenging to delegate tasks effectively. Just grade yourself for that one. My goals and priorities are constantly changing, making it hard to focus. Where are you on the scale with that? I feel that there is a lack of proper leadership development and training provided to me. Just note down what that is for you. I believe the recognition and rewards I receive are inadequate for the effort I put in. I often feel isolated and lonely in my role. I have difficulty managing and coping with stress. Grade yourself for that. And then we have one more left. I find that there is a clear lack of vision and feedback in my role, communication and feedback in my role. So just note down all of those figures, and I will give you a moment to just add them up, and then we'll move on. So just make a note of that figure, because this is really important for you to be able to self-assess where you are right now. Okay, I'm going to move on. So some of you may know about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's very important when it comes to ascertaining where stress is coming from. So where are you? Because each layer brings with it a set of particular stresses. So the lowest layer is physiological, and this is really what we need to keep breathing and surviving physically. So we're back to the most basic things that we need in order to be able to live on this planet. The next level is safety and security. So that's your family, your job, your health, stability, resources, and property. And if the psychological needs are not met, you are not able to focus on the next level until that is actually sorted. The next level is belonging and love. That's friendships, family, relationships, and intimacy. Oops. Oh, it always does this for some reason. I don't know why. Sorry.
Don't worry, we're teachers. We are so used to technology going wrong.
I'm just going to put that whole lot in so it won't go kaput. So the next level is self-esteem. That's confidence, sense of accomplishment, achievement, uniqueness, respect. And then the final, the top of the triangle, when we've got all of these things in place, is we've got the time to think about self-actualization, fulfilling our potential, developing purpose. We've got the opportunity and the space to think about morality, creativity, and spontaneity. And the real question is, are your needs being met? And if they're not being met, where is it falling down in Maslow's hierarchy? So just take a moment and note for yourself, where is that not happening for you? Where are the gaps? Because as I say, each layer brings with it a set of particular stresses. As you can appreciate, if you're not getting fed and you haven't got shelter and you're out in the winter weather, well, there's only one thing you're going to be worried about, and that's getting shelter and food. You don't care about anything else. However, if all of those things are in place and it's your self-esteem that you're not happy with, it's being knocked at work, then that is where you're going to be focusing. Okay, moving on. So the burnout aware monitor. Now, I want to really drill down into symptoms because it's very important for you to understand where you are with the symptoms. You may very well, flag up for yourself, oh, that's me, that's happening to me. And that's really what I want this evening, for you to become really aware of those symptoms. Please feel free, if you are comfortable, to share what is happening with you so that other people can understand as well and see that they're not on their own. You're not on your own with this. So if you'd like to share that in chat, please do. So the first level is mild and manageable, and that's occasional worrying, irritation, and mild frustration. You might be getting headaches and you might be getting disturbed digestion sometimes, but pretty much you're on an even keel. You're not too bad at all. So this is my advice here is just find ways to relax, sleep well, and eat healthily. And you should be able to keep that resilience going if you are not overloaded. The next level is continuous and concerning. So we're looking at maybe your stomach is often in a tight knot. I'm going to go through these quite quickly because there's quite a few of them, but just note down what resonates for you. You wake up with a lack of energy for the day ahead. You've had an increase in minor accidents. When we're heading for burnout, we start having accidents, and sometimes that will lead to physical injury, which then is kind of the final straw, which just leads to a breakdown and overwhelm. You can't stop worrying about things that didn't bother you before, and you have a shorter fuse. Think about colleagues as well. Are you finding that you can't say things around them? You feel like you're walking on eggshells suddenly because they've got a short fuse nowadays. It takes you longer to get over colds and flu. I mean, there's a lot of it around at the moment. I know a particular, he's actually an electrician, because burnout is rife in various industries and construction and trades is one of the highest. He's had a chest infection for, I think it's 7 weeks now. That's not good. That's an indication of heading for burnout. Your work has become a chore and you feel isolated. So here's the time to find out what the high stress triggers are and actively start reducing them. And I've got some practical activities for you later on that you can engage in and do for yourself to actually identify where that's happening. And then we've got dangerous and damaging. You're no longer coping with any stress. Even a little is too much for you. Your feelings of doom regularly. I mean, the news is atrocious. I personally think that dropping engagement in listening and watching the news, listening to and watching the news is a very healthy thing, because it's not good. If you're heading for burnout, then it really is going to be adding on the load. You've got insomnia and your mind can't switch off. You wake up with a clenched jaw and you're grinding your teeth and have tension headaches. Now, some people actually end up with a mouth guard because they're destroying their teeth because they're so stressed. Is that you? Is that happening to you? That's really, chronic by that point. And you're waking up regularly at 3 a.m. I mentioned that cortisol secretes into the bloodstream at 3 a.m. It wakes you up and it's preparing you for the level of stress and danger that your mind and your body is expecting for the next day. It's become chronic, i.e., it's happening regularly. You suffer from panic attacks, hyperventilation, not being able to breathe is a very scary thing to go through. So if you're suffering from panic attacks, that needs to be addressed. You find yourself getting confused and forgetful. You have mood swings you can't control. You're starting to isolate yourself and feel less like socializing. You're not thinking about going out, to the Christmas parties. You're kind of wanting to stay indoors and just keep away from people. Your heart is pounding regularly and you feel it hard to take a full breath. You have had a change in your appetite as well. Either you can't eat much because you've got a knot in your stomach continuously, or you actually are craving sugar and comfort foods, which is your body's way of somehow getting some energy, some life energy, so you can actually function. Okay, if you don't address these problems, you are at serious risk of mental health deterioration and physical illness within the next 2 years. This comes from the Holmes and Rahe stress indicator. It's a model that is used in psychology, and it's pretty accurate. You are at risk of burnout and adrenal fatigue. That means when your stress hormones are fired and there's nothing left in the tank. So that's dangerous. That can lead to a very serious condition if not dealt with. So talking about this Holmes and Rahe stress indicator, I've pulled out some of the kind of stressors that just build up. If this has happened to you, it doesn't go away, it's cumulative. So you have to be aware that you're in a vulnerable state if you don't do something about reducing your stress. So examples would be major personal injury or illness. Well, obviously we've been through the pandemic, so many of us have had COVID. That's weakened our immune systems. Being fired at work, retirement from work, gaining a new colleague, major business readjustments, a major change in financial state, changing to a different line of work, a major change in responsibilities at work as well. So all of these things add up and they don't go away. Okay, I've got one question for you, and that is, who is going to turn off the tap? Is it going to happen at your workplace, or are you going to take ownership after tonight and say, right, that's it. This is not what I want in my life. I don't want to burn out. I want to be able to function and I want to be able to move on to do the things that I want to do. And this is like an endless flowing tap. And it's horrible watching this video of just the water flowing. I mean, it's like the question is, who's going to turn off the tap? When is it going to happen? So, okay. So what can you do for yourself? So we need to drop stress levels. That's where it's at, because those stress hormones need to be brought back into balance. They need to get back into a secretion pattern that is healthy. So these are the things where we need to focus. So first of all, yeah, it's your workplace. And I'm going to talk about that in a moment, because I'm going to really drill down on what you really ought to be expecting from your workplace. Then we're going to talk about relaxation and look at that. Time management. Now, I know as teachers, time management is one of those issues that it's almost like impossible to manage time with all of the deadlines that you have. The way that the holiday system works, and I've spoken to many teachers, and believe you me, I do get it. Many people don't get it and they say, oh God, yeah, but they have all these teachers, they have an easy time, they've got all these long holidays. I understand that that's not how it works. And you are constantly chasing your tails and not doing the kind of work that you really signed up in the first place. It was your vocation, it was your passion to do, you know, the teaching, to teach children, to make a difference, and it's not happening. And I do get it. And obviously the Wellbeing Index shows exactly why that is happening. And then problem solving. I want to show you something really smart that is going to help you to refocus yourselves. Okay, so I mentioned to you about Blue EQ and psychological safety. Now, this is something that is so important. There are 4 quadrants for psychological safety. There's learner safety. So how many of you are being encouraged to do some training or learning? This is what you should be really expecting. You should be expecting to feel safe to discover things for yourself, to ask questions about the training, to experiment, to have that opportunity to try things out, to learn from mistakes and not be slammed for getting something wrong and feeling under pressure to get it right all the time, and to look for new opportunities. The second quadrant is challenger safety. So challenger safety is all about engagement, and so being able to engage, interact with your colleagues in a way that you feel safe, that you feel secure, that you can say things, you can do things that you're not going to get, again, slammed for. Having mutual access to opportunities, maintaining open dialogue and fostering constructive debate. So if that's not happening for you, then this is what ought to be happening. Collaborator safety. Now, this is a difficult one because it's about challenging the status quo. How comfortable do you feel about doing that? I suspect probably not very. Speaking up, expressing your ideas, identifying the challenges, and exposing problems. Because a lot of, well, I work for myself, but I know a lot of people who are employed would rather cut their own arm off than expose a problem in the organization, because you feel that you're going to be punished or you might even be fired, but you feel that it's not safe. And inclusion, knowing that you are valued, treating all people fairly, being treated fairly by your management, feel that your experience and ideas matter as well, that you're a valued member of your educational organization, and including others regardless of their title and position, and to be able to openly contribute. This is the model, the ideal model for how things ought to run within workforces, within workplaces. So how many of those are actually tickable for you? Another question for you to identify where things may be not going the way that you need them to go. By the way, Katie, I can share this if people would like afterwards. So just let me know if you'd like this slide shared.
Lovely,
So my question to you is, what do you do regularly to care for yourself now? So I'd love you to share that in chat. It would be great to see. I can't see anything at the moment, but it'd be great to see what you're doing for yourself. Are you doing yoga? Do you do exercise? Are you switching off by going out into nature? What do you do for yourself? What do you find that is working for you? Because that's really important. So I'll just give you a moment while I have a sip of water to share in the chat if you would like to. Okay, so before we get to that, the other thing I'd like a real clarity on and a reality check is, when it comes to time management, how easy are you finding that now in your life as it is? I'd love to know that, because it helps me to understand where I can make more of a difference in serving you and your community in the education sector. So I'd love to have some feedback on that. So problem solving. Now, there are many things I could tell you about problem solving. There are so many tools and techniques, but I decided that there's only really one thing that is valuable in sharing with you, because it basically it covers everything and it affects everything. So what I'd like you to do, just take a moment. You can see that there's predominantly 3 different colors of objects in this room. I would like you to take a moment to count up how many red objects there are in the room. And in a moment, I will just take it off screen. And when I've taken it off screen, I'd like you to write it in. Okay. So just take a moment. Okay. Just a quick count. Okay. So I'd love you to write down, just take a moment to write down in chat how many red objects you counted. How many do you think there are in that room? Okay, all done? Great. Okay, so I have a super important question for you. I bet you can't guess what it is. The question is, are you ready? Are you ready for this? How many blue objects did you notice? Please write down how many blue objects you noticed in the room. Okay, and put blue next to it so that we don't get confused with the red, because it would be very interesting. So did you notice any blue objects? Did you think, yeah, there are blue objects, but obviously we're focusing on the red objects, right? Or did you even count the blue objects? Because some people are so clued up, they will actually notice everything. They've got photographic memory. So which one are you? Now, why did I do this with you? Why did I share this exercise with you and take you through it? Because what you focus on will grow and more of it will show up in your life. Okay, we know this from quantum physics, that what you, the observer affects the observed. I'd love to go through that at another time, Katie, if you give me an opportunity to, but tonight I'm just going to tell you that this is the way the world works. What you focus on will grow, and what you neglect will disappear out of your life. So your choice, okay, what are you going to focus on? When it comes to positive perceptions, where do you want to head in your life? That is the key question. And I've just shown you with the room exercise that you thought I was going to ask you about the red objects, and I wasn't. I asked you something completely left field. Be prepared for the unexpected, always. Always be prepared for the unexpected. And notice when the answer to your prayers shows up, because sometimes it doesn't come in the way that we think it will. We assume things. Take the assumption out. You know, I've actually written a book, and one of the exercises in that is called The Art of Non-Assumption. And this is the way to open yourself up to more opportunities and more solutions. So I hope you got something out of that exercise. But that's the important message here. Okay, so what can you do for yourself? I love this exercise, and I've had feedback on how useful this is. Find out what is draining you. Okay, you've got Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You've got the list of symptoms. Write in a notebook. Take a notebook and write 2 columns in there. Create 2 columns. One has got energizers and the other one's got depleters. And for a week, note down everything that you do and everyone you communicate with every day for a week, and decide which column they belong in. It will be really eye-opening for you, I promise you, because you'll start seeing patterns showing up. And once you have started seeing patterns showing up, that is when you will get answers. And once you get answers, you can do something about it. So it's a very empowering exercise. And I think you're going to find that it is really useful for you. So Just going to take another sip. Excuse me. So did you make a note? Did you add up the answer to the 10 questions, not questions, the 10 statements from 1 to 10? I'll just give you a moment if you didn't do it quite. Just give you a moment to do that. Add up your score, and then we'll go through and you can identify where you actually fall within those categories. Okay, so the first category is between 85 and 100. Okay, so you seem to be in a healthy position regarding burnout. Your score suggests you're rarely encountering burnout triggers. So continue to be proactive in dealing with stress. It's important to put in a maintenance system into your life to make sure you don't go into a danger situation with stress. So the next category is 70 to 84. If you are in this category, you're managing reasonably well, but there might be occasional moments of feeling overwhelmed. So periodic check-ins with a professional could be beneficial to maintaining or improving your situation. The next category, are you in this category between 55 and 69? So there are signs that you're experiencing some aspects of burnout more frequently. You need to identify specific areas of concern. You can do the energizers depleters. That's a great way to start. I have other tools as well that are really useful. So, you know, those we can talk about those at some other point maybe, and proactively address those areas of concern. It can help in ensuring a healthier work environment for yourself. If you're in the category of 40 to 54, you're getting closer to a concerning level of burnout. Actively seeking changes in your environment, responsibilities, or support system can be essential to preventing a full-blown burnout situation. Excuse me. If you are below 40, and it might be a bit of a shock for some of you that you've come in below 40, your scores indicate a high frequency of burnout symptoms. This can impact your health, well-being, and leadership capabilities significantly. It is advisable to seek intervention immediately with a professional who's qualified in dealing with burnout. So while this assessment obviously provides the basics, individual experiences may, of course, vary. Okay, so here's the thing. What happens if you don't do anything after this webinar? So there are costs. Let's talk about the financial cost of burnout. Let's talk about business and organizations, because stress is a major cause of sickness absence in the workplace, and it costs over £5 billion a year in Britain alone. £5 billion. Most of that is fixable. If we put things into place, well-being maintenance and mental health maintenance, then a lot of this could be avoided, and the NHS would not be overburdened like the Wellbeing Index has identified as one of the biggest risk factors. More than 15.4 million working days are lost as a result of stress, anxiety, or depression, at an estimated cost of £5.2 billion to industry and individuals. That's a lot of money down the drain. But what is the financial cost to you? What can you not afford? If you burn out, you can't function. You won't be able to pay your bills. You won't be able to pay for medication, or that will be what you will be spending your money on. You won't be able to pay for a holiday, treats for yourself and your family, new clothes, going out for a meal and a night, de-stressing, going out, letting your hair down. You won't be able to do that. Home improvements, school fees, good quality food and nutrition, which is vital for the maintenance of our bodies and our well-being, your health, well-being, and satisfaction with life. It's not a good place to be. And what is the human cost of burnout? So workplace burnout affects employees, their families, and colleagues, and it also impacts employers with costs. So I'm sure you're aware of colleagues who have already burnt out, and you're probably picking up some of their lessons, having to fill in. It affects, it's the ripple effect of somebody who's burnt out, as well as just yourself and what you're going through, which is very damaging. So there are costs related to sickness, absence, replacement of staff, retraining of staff once you've got the new staff, loss of productivity, quiet quitting, increased in accidents, as I said, because when you are heading for burnout and stressed out, you start having accidents, you get clumsy. And crisis management is the final end point of this, when you have to bring people in to actually rescue the situation. So what's the risk to you? Now let's look at the physical, some of this is the physical likelihood of what may result from burnout: chronic exhaustion, depression, chronic anxiety, heart conditions, adrenal fatigue. You might have digestive problems, IBS, even Crohn's disease could result from that, leaky gut syndrome, tension, headaches and migraine, and other chronic long-term illness. And the human cost is vast. As I mentioned at the beginning, there's 2.5 million people out long-term sick with these kinds of symptoms. So I just want to touch on, I mentioned that I'm the business burnout buster. I want to touch on what I actually do, so you get an understanding of the range of things I cover. So I work with prevention. Tonight is about prevention. I hope I can prevent a lot of you from going down the nasty road of burnout. Prevention is key, and that's about trainings and workshops, which I deliver either online or on premises to companies and organizations. Then there's retention. Those people who are dangerously heading for burnout, I want to make sure that they don't end up being lost and going down the cracks. So I work with organizations to actually change the burnout culture within the working environment. Some of that is down to psychological safety, putting those things into place, working with emotional intelligence, looking at what's going on with employees and workers to make sure that things are put into place to pull them back from the brink, and providing good mental health compliance. Occupational health is health and safety's occupation. So it comes under the ISO 45,003, 1 and 3, health and safety compliance. Health and safety compliance. Sorry, put my teeth back in. And the other thing is restoration. So restoration is for those who have gone over the edge and unfortunately are not coping or not functioning. I provide one-to-one change work sessions. I use my trademarked life retuning method, which is a rapid emotional release and mindset transformation system. So that is what I do. As I said, I am trained by Blue EQ. I'm a qualified mental health first aider. And that is the end of my webinar for this evening. I do hope that you've found something useful, that it's opened your eyes, it's got you thinking, and it's given you some tools of resilience moving forward. So please do ask me any questions. I'm very, very happy to answer anything at all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Idilko. I think, that it's really useful to think about those things in detail, because we don't, do we? We just quite often coast along and ignore those problems until they get a lot bigger, and it might be within ourselves or within colleagues. How would you suggest, if someone, if you're noticing someone at work with some of these symptoms, what's the best way to talk to them about it? What would you suggest? Because it's quite a personal thing, isn't it?
It is. So that's why the mental health first aider certification has been brought in. There is a format which is called Algae. So it's a way of actually talking to somebody and identifying with that person what their issue is, and then signposting them for help.
Mhm.
If you are in an organization, if you don't have any mental health first aiders, please do ask to have somebody trained, so that person is then the person to go to, because you're right, these are personal things. Some people are in denial, they don't even want to talk about what's going on with them, and you really need to be able to approach somebody in a way that is not going to trigger them, and is in with the right language. So I would say that's the first thing to do. Make sure that you find out, do you have a mental health first aider? If you don't, maybe put yourself forward to get your organization or your school to actually send you to get that certification.
And also, if you what ways can you sort of cope with the guilt? Because I speak to a lot of teachers and they feel really guilty. I mean, any day that you take off, you know that you're
Yeah,
piling work on other people. You feel like you're letting students down, you're
yeah.
letting your colleagues down. How do you cope with the guilt side of things?
Okay, so the important thing to look at is the psychological safety. These are the things that your organization needs to be providing you. If you're not being provided with those things, then you are going to have pressure put on you, which will inevitably push you to a point where you're not able to cope. So the guilt needs to be turned, you need to flip it the other way. Look at what you're not being given, and what is not being put in place, because it's yes, it's horrible when you feel guilty that you are taking time off, but at the end of the day, if you're running on empty, you've got nothing left to give, you're going to fall over, and you have a responsibility to yourself as well. We talk about the oxygen mask on the plane. It's that analogy or metaphor is used quite often, that you put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you can help anybody else. And actually, NASA did a demonstration of how quickly we lose consciousness when the oxygen is depleted. Within seconds, you can't recognize faces. That's how fast it happens. So if you're not providing yourself with what you need, you can't help anybody else. And really, it's the system that needs to be changed. And I know, obviously, that's a whole wide conversation. But from the point of view of guilt, I would say flip it round and have a look at what is going on in your organization. Where are those stresses coming from? And then you'll start understanding that it's a natural thing that you're not coping effectively.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've got a question here from Jack. Um, he says it's a massive question, but how on earth might we change in education culturally, systematically, to reduce the current very high rate of burnout,
Yeah,
recruitment and retention crisis? Now,
yeah,
I mean, you're the best place to answer this because you have done this with businesses, haven't you? You have turned around
yeah.
how they're dealing with mental health and well-being so they aren't losing stuff. Could you just tell us perhaps one of your wins with that, so maybe we can learn from this?
So the main thing I've been working with is helping. It's what I call emotional firefighting. So people who are already on the skids, and teaching how to look after ourselves, I think it has to start with us, Jack. It has to start with what we um, do for ourselves, because the system is not going to shift fast. We know that. It's a behemoth. It's things have been going out of kilter for a long time. We know that too. So it will take a lot of reorganization to pull things back. But I would say the most important thing is starting a routine for yourself. Even if you are exhausted, every day try and do something and incrementally build that up for yourself. And also, when you're doing this, you're demonstrating to other people that you can do this. They can do it too. And then you become an inspiration for others. So be the inspiration. Put things into place for yourself and let others see what you're doing. We can't change it from the top, because it doesn't work that way. It has to be grassroots. I'm a great believer in grassroots change. So if we're going to change the burnout culture, it has to come from each of us implementing, taking responsibility for our own well-being and implementing that. when you ask about what I have done for companies, so I have given the same kind of webinars, trainings, so people understand what burnout is, what the risks are, what they need to put in place. I would love to work at a higher level. Maybe I will. But at the moment, that is what I'm doing. I am teaching people, educating people on what they need to do, and then giving them the tools so that they can actually implement that themselves. But be the inspiration. That's what I would say.
Yeah, because I think, especially in education, I'm probably in lots of sectors, but in education, there is this real thing about sort of hiding
Yeah.
that you are not coping, because you really don't want people to know or judge
Yeah.
you, or sort of, use that as an excuse, I suppose.
Mm.
And so we do bury it. And so having open conversations, and like you say, having a mental
Yes.
health first aider at work,
Mm.
they're really important steps, aren't they? Really important
They are.
strategies. And I
They
think when
are.
you were talking earlier as well, I was sort of thinking about the list, about the energizers and the depleters. And I thought, well, how would people see me?
Mhm.
Because sometimes I can have really high energy, but sometimes I'm
Yeah.
very focused on what I'm doing and
Mm.
what I need to do, that
Mm.
perhaps I'm then not really noticing what they need as well. So yeah, I think you're right about that sort of grassroots,
Yeah.
just sort of developing that culture, I guess.
It is about changing the culture. In the past, mental health has been something of a stigma. It still is, but it's changing. And I think the pandemic changed that because we had no choice. Things were so bad. People were suffering so badly that there wasn't any choice but to start having these conversations. And, the government is expecting 1 in 10 employees to become a certified mental health first aider. That is the target.
Mhm.
So you can use that, you can actually say, hey, where's our mental health first aider? Because it needs to be in each organization. So I would say, you know, aim to see if you can get some kind of purchase on that side of things. And yes, that I can understand, it is difficult to kind of step forward and say, hey, I've got this issue, but ultimately the alternative is to burn out and to ruin the rest of your life. Because I can tell you one thing, once you're burnt out, you never have the level of energy again, and you can't go back to the level that you dropped out of. So this is what we're seeing, is that high flyers, they are burning out and then they won't go back in at that level ever again. So all that work, all those years of climbing the ladder is gone in an instant. So I think, maybe it's about some people just taking the bull by the horns and being brave and standing up and saying, hey, this needs to change. I'm here to support you. I can support you with helping you with information. I can also, we're going to talk about that afterwards. I've got something that I want to share with you, which can be of help. I can help you come out of fear and anxiety. I can clear your mind space, and I can give you an opportunity to think in a positive, solution-based way. I can help on those levels, and I'm very happy to. But I think, it really takes somebody or some people to step up and say, this won't do anymore. Because ultimately, it's just going to end up in disaster, isn't it? That's the thing. That's what we're seeing with this workplace, or rather the wellbeing index. That's the conclusions that they've come to this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see it with lots of the teachers that I speak to, unfortunately, that one of the reasons that they're changing careers, they cannot work at that pace anymore.
Yeah.
And it's great, but if they come to me when they have properly burnt out, they are not in a good headspace
No,
to find a new career.
that's
So
right.
it's almost like you said, recognizing those signs
Mm.
early enough that you are in the right space to think properly about how you're going to move forward, and focusing on that
Yeah,
next goal, whatever that is with the career
absolutely.
journey. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think possibly maybe the first steps are to come from teachers who already have stepped out of the education sector and start shouting about it.
Hmm.
Start shouting that this this is why I dropped out. This is why I'm not doing it anymore. What are you going to do about it? You know, that's a safer position if you want to talk about, you know, psychological safety, that I'm already out of the system. So this is what is not working for me. And I want to tell my story, and I want to share, because I know that a load of my colleagues are in the same situation, but this gives them some kind of hope that these conversations that need to take place desperately are actually taking place now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your presentation and for the tips and advice, and just, you know, being able to recognize that. And I think having the confidence to sort of sit there and, you know, write down, tally up and answer those questions, which are difficult questions sometimes,
Yeah, they are.
to create a bit more awareness. I'd love for you, you know, I know that you have got a special course that you've created. If anyone would like to stay on and listen to the course that Ildiko is running, if you need that help and support and you resonate with what Ildiko has said, and her as a practitioner, then it's worth staying on for. But thank you very much for joining us tonight. If you do have to go, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for listening to me. I hope that you've taken away something of value. Please, you know, you can come get in contact with me if you wish, for any reason really. But I'm here to help. You know, this is my mission, my passion, and thank you very much for listening.
Lovely. Okay, so I will put your contact details in the group chat. Ildiko, do you want to?
Yeah, the last slide.
Yes, please. Yeah, tell us about your workshop.
Right. So actually it's not a workshop. It's basically helping you immediately if you are in a state of burnout. It's the Burnout Recovery Starter Package. Now, this is just 3 sessions. It's using my premium rapid emotional and mental block release system, which is called the Life Retuning Method. So what I aim to do with you in those 3 sessions is to drop your anxiety and increase your levels of calmness, and give you mental breathing space so that you can think rationally and you can make the decisions that you need to make in your life now. But you are being blocked because it's here, isn't it? You can't think straight because everything is here. So it's about giving you that space. If you have suffered trauma and crisis from distressing work situations in the past, the life retuning method helps to actually eliminate the fallout from that, the repercussions within your psyche, and your thinking. And this will increase your resilience in dealing with stress as well. To get rid of these triggers from the past, actually increase your resilience to bounce back. And that's what we really want, isn't it? It's also will help you to increase relaxation in your body so that your hormones can get back into balance. There's the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic is the fight flight response. The parasympathetic is the relaxation response. And these are always fluctuating from one to another. But if you get an imbalance and it's the sympathetic nervous system and it's the fight flight response, then you start getting really out of whack. So it's about bringing everything back into balance so that your body can start repairing the physical symptoms as well as burnout. So at the moment, until the end of January, they're 3 1-hour sessions. So those are that will be £425 at my special price instead of £500 until the end of January. So please do use the QR code, and there's also a Calendly link just under where I've put Burnout Recovery Starter Package. So please do go and book yourself up for those 3 sessions if you would like to, and I can work with you to get you out of that extreme situation now. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time tonight, Ildiko. Honestly, I really appreciate the level of detail and research, like I said at the beginning, that you've put into this webinar, and just having that open, honest conversation, I know it will help lots of teachers out there, either themselves or their colleagues, or for a partner as well. You know, we all need to be looking out for each other, don't we, and
Yes,
supporting each other.
definitely.
So it's great to have people like you in the world who are fully trained in helping look after people. And I meant what I said. You know, I really do appreciate you coming on and delivering this for the audience tonight.
Thank you.
And thank you all for joining us. I will let you go to enjoy your Wednesday evening now. But yeah, thank you very much. I will put in the chat Ildiko's contact details. So if you want to message her with anything, you can do. And of course, if you want to get in touch with Did Teach and ask anything about career changing, that's what we're here for. So take care, have a lovely evening, and Merry Christmas when it comes around.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.